Hey there YouTube. So in this video I wanted to go over the closer connection exception for non-residents. Right, so this is Form 8840. In front of us here I've got an example that we'll go through and I'll show you how to fill this form out. But first I want to flip over to two slides that I've prepared that not only just cover this example but also highlight the rules and how if you're a non-resident in the U.S. you can trip over this substantial presence test accidentally. And then you might need to file this form to kind of bail yourself out. So let me flip over the slides. We'll start at the top here, right? So if a non-U.S. individual is physically in the U.S. enough days to meet that substantial presence test, they can override this by proving a closer connection to another country. And this is done by filing Form 8840 with the IRS. So first things first, what is the substantial presence test? If you meet this test, it makes you a U.S. tax resident for the whole year. Generally not a good thing, right? You're subject to tax then on your worldwide income, not just U.S. source income, and you've got to do other kind of filings like foreign bank account reportings, FBARs with FinCEN, and a few other things that really are just not good. So the substantial presence test, you meet this if a non-U.S. person is considered a U.S. tax resident, they're physically present in the U.S. on at least 31 days during the current year and 183 days during the 3-year period that includes the current year and the 2 years immediately before that, counting all the days you were present in the current year and 1/3 of the days in the first year back, and then 1/6 of the days you were present the second year back. Okay, so it's a rolling test, right? You're not just looking at the number of days that you were physically in the U.S. during the current year. You're looking back 2 years and taking a percentage of those days spent in country. And this is where a lot of people can get tripped up, is because they see the 183 and they think, oh, as long as I'm not in the U.S. for 183 days each year, I'm good. That's not the rule. The rule is it's a 183-day computation, current period, and looking back 2 years, okay? So here's an example of how this can happen. We have Hans here. Hans is our friend. He's a German citizen, and he's got a standard B2 tourist visa, right? So under that visa, you can enter to the U.S. for up to 180 days per visit, and then once you hit that threshold, you got to get out, right? You've got to leave the country or else you're overstaying your visa. Not a good thing, right? The U.S. will flag this. So it's not just a tax problem, but it's certainly a visa and other kind of legal problem. So what did Hans do? So Hans visited the United States for the first time in 2019. He had never been to the U.S. before. So that's where we're starting here. 2019, and he was in the country for 135 days. Okay, so for the 2019 tax year, he did not meet the substantial presence test because he did not meet that 183-day test, right? So if we're looking at 2019 and we're applying the standard, okay, he was in the country for more than 31 days during that current year, but he didn't meet this test down here, which is the second piece, right? So he was under 183, but he had 0 for the 2018 year, and he had 0 for 2017, right? Because remember, it's a 3-year look back. So 2019, he's good. He left, but then he came back to the U.S. in 2020 and spent 146 days in the country. Here's the problem. Right now, when he looks at his substantial presence test calculation for 2020, he realizes he's over this 183-day mark, right? Because when he does this calculation, he had 146 days in 2020, and then he adds 45 days from the prior year, right? The 45 days is 1/3 of the 135, right? That's this piece up here. And then he does 0 for the 2 years back, right? Because he didn't come to the country until 2019. But for 2020, he meets the substantial presence test. So now what does he do? Well, he is technically a U.S. tax resident unless he can meet this closer connection exception and override the test, right? And the closer connection exception can be found in Treasury Reg 301-7701B-2, okay? So let's move on to slide 2, and then we'll go through the form and the example. So the closer connection rule, this is the override. So if you're an alien individual who meets a substantial presence test, you can override it for the current year if you meet the following conditions. So first thing is You're present in the U.S. for fewer than 183 days in the current year. This is really important. If you're over that 183-day mark for the current year, it's not going to work. You're not going to be able to meet this test. The second piece is you maintained a tax home in a foreign country during that current period, and except as provided in subparagraph E of this section, if you go look at the Treasury reg, you have a closer connection during the current year to a single foreign country in which you maintain a tax home other than the United States. Okay, so in other words, you have a home that's maintained outside the United States, and that's the closer connection that you're claiming that you have. Okay, pretty straightforward. So first thing, I got a couple definitions just to clarify here. Tax home for an individual is considered to be located in the regular place of business or the individual's regular place of abode in a real and substantial nature. Okay, so the principal place of business test is, if you're self-employed, right? So if you're self-employed, where do you regularly do business? Or if you're not self-employed and you're an employee or you're unemployed, let's say, where is your regular place of abode, right? And so in Hans's case, we're gonna try to show that Germany is his regular place of abode. So the closer connection to foreign country test, did the individual maintain more significant contacts with a foreign country other than the United States? And in the reg, there's a long list of factors that they consider. These are some of the most meaningful ones, right? So location of your permanent home, where's your family located, and then where do you store all your personal belongings? Where do you have a car? Where do you regularly bank, right? Do you have U.S. banking only, or do you have foreign country banks, bank accounts, and things like that? If you're operating a business, where are your business contacts? Where is your driver's license registered, right? I mean, where are you registered to vote? All these little things that build up the facts and circumstances test to make sure that you can claim this closer connection. Okay, so we've set the stage for Hans. Now let's go look at the form. So the form is actually relatively straightforward to fill out. So in this example, Hans, he has an ITIN, so he's going to be filing a Form 1040 for that year, and he's going to attach this to the Form 1040-NR. And that's important because, as you can see here, it says, fill in your address only if you're filing this separately. In this case, Hans isn't going to file it separately, so we can leave this blank because on his 1040-NR, he's got his address. Okay, so part one. Now, general information here, type of visa. He's on a B2 visa. He entered the country in the current year on June 15th, 2020. And then questions, 2 through 6 here, just fill out, according to your citizenship and residency days. So he's a German citizen. He's got a German passport. Enter your passport number. Question 5, enter the number of days you were present in the U.S. So 2018, remember 0, right, because he had never been to the U.S. before. In 2019, he was in for 135 days, and in 2020, he was in for 146 days. Now, during 2020, did you apply for or take other affirmative action to be a lawful resident? So this is a green card, right? If you're applying for a green card, you can't use this closer connection test because you've already tripped over the rule in a sense, and that you're trying to make the United States your permanent home. Right, so they're conflicting positions. If the United States is what you intend to make your permanent home, then you don't have that closer connection anymore to Germany. Okay, in this case, Hans did not do that. Right, he didn't apply for anything. He was just in the country on a tourist visa, tripped over this rule, and now he's trying to get out of it. Okay, so part 2, closer connection to one foreign country. Right. You fill out this part if you do have that closer connection to just one foreign country. If you're kind of a nomad and you have closer connection to 2 foreign countries, then you would complete part 3. In this case, Hans is just doing part 2, right? Germany is his closer connection. And then in part 4, there's just more questions here. A lot of this is geared towards that facts and circumstances test to test whether or not your closer connection is to a foreign country. So, a lot of these questions are going to look familiar to what we saw on the slide, right? Where is your regular place of, where's your permanent home? Where's your family located? Where do you have automobiles? Where is your automobile registered? Where are your personal belongings? So on and so forth. So go down the list. I'll pause here on this question number 25. We'll look at this a little closer. So have you ever completed Form W-8 Ben, or any other version of Form W-8, or have you ever done Form W-9? Have you ever filed any of these other forms? What they're asking here is trying to get at, are you still taking the position that you're a non-U.S. person, or did you trip over that U.S. tax residency rule, perhaps in a prior year, right? So Form W-9 is used for U.S. tax residents. If Hans went to open an account and he provided a bank, let's say a Form W-9, that would be him taking a position that he's a U.S. tax resident, right? Which would not be good to support your position that you're not a U.S. resident. Okay, so questions 26 and 7. What countries did you keep your personal, financial, and legal documents? Germany, right? I mean, he keeps everything there. Where did he get a majority of his income? Germany, again. Now, do you have any income from U.S. sources? He is saying yes. He's got some U.S. stock investments, so he's got U.S. source dividends, and that's fine, right? Non-residents can have income from U.S. sources and still be a non-resident for federal income tax purposes, so that's not an issue. And then question 30, did you qualify for any national health plan? He's a German citizen and resident, and like most countries in Europe, they have a national health plan available to their citizens or residents, so he indicates yes, and it's in Germany. So once everything's completed, he would sign this, date it. Again, it says here, very clearly, sign it only if you're filing this separately and you're not doing a U.S. tax return. In this case, Hans is going to file a 1040-NR under his ITIN for 2020, and he's just going to attach this as part of the return, so he doesn't have to sign and date this form specifically. But if you are going to file this separately, you're going to have to input the information up here for your address, and then you are going to sign and date at the bottom. So thank you for watching. I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment below in the video. Happy to answer those, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you.